Also with us, Nomiki Konst, founder and executive director of the Accountability Project, and Dana Loesch, host of Dana on the Blaze TV and author of Hands Off My Gun. Good to see you both. Let me start with you on this, Nomiki. What specifically could have been done in this case so that this guy would not have passed a background check?
Yeah, you know, some of these background checks are not as strict as we think. We use this term background check loosely. Every state has their own specifications for background checks, and the states that have the looser, the lax laws actually have more murders per gun murders than in any other part of the country. I mean, the states, the looser laws have more murders.
Okay, but here's the problem as I see it. You tell me if I'm wrong. You look at the federal standard, and the bar is very high to get something on your record that would disqualify you from passing a background check. Federal law requires you to be adjudicated as a mental defective, so you got to get the court saying you're a mental defective, or committed to a mental institution. That's really all at the federal level. Is that pretty standard among the states?
I think it is, and you know, you have two separate situations here. You have a mental health situation, a crisis in America, and you have a gun crisis in America. And there are lobbies that are preventing both of these from effectuating change. And that's the big problem here, is we don't have standards for mental health. We don't have free access to mental health. Even Obamacare didn't settle this completely.
And we're not going to. I mean, that's just the truth.
You're right.
They haven't changed a thing about mental health. Even in the wake of Sandy Hook, we had the big commission, blah, blah, blah. You tell me, Dana, what could happen? I mean, you're a very pro-Second Amendment person. What could happen? What can we do to make sure the psychos don't get the guns?
We can follow the laws that we have on the books. The case of Virginia Tech, that particular murderer in that case had gotten in trouble. He had to seek mental health. He had to go and undergo these mental health checkups weekly, Megan, and nobody followed up on it. He was sort of fell through the cracks. For instance, in Charleston, which you and I discussed just last night, you had the murderer in the Charleston case who passed a background check because the government failed to properly document and they failed to properly enter him into the system correctly. And it should be noted that background checks are not foolproof. In fact, there is no conclusive studies at all whatsoever that show that they reduce crime. Now, in terms of federal standards, in Charleston, Roof should not have even been able to purchase a gun because he was charged with a felony, which is all that's needed.
Criminal history,
Megan,
that's a problem.
Mental health laws that no one follows.
That will help disqualify you.
It is a
problem. But it's the mental, it's the guys like this who haven't quite gotten to the point where they've been committed or really officially identified as a problem, who keep getting guns. And the question is, Nomiki, because what happens is people on the left have argued we need a very high standard for commitment. It used to be lower. Trump was talking about this today, saying in New York City, you got a bunch of crazy people on the streets because they've been let out of institutions because there's no money. And the question is, why is it so hard to get a designation on these people that would disqualify them?
Well, part of it has to do with funding. I mean, we're not funding mental health care. I mean, that's a crisis in America right now. We're not funding mental health care, and we're not fighting for stricter gun law prevention. And I know, Dana, you're very passionate about this, but we have one mass shooting a year. You know, the federal gun registry has prevented 2.1 million criminals from accessing guns. You know, that's something that you are fighting against.
Let her respond. Go ahead, Dana.
False.
No, it's a federal statistic.
First off, I'm not quite sure where you're getting the statistics. I know, here's the thing. There's no conclusive evidence. In fact, there was a study that was done in 2004 on the background check system and who all it can actually prevent. We just spent almost $1 trillion on Obamacare, and we're going to sit here and seriously argue that we're not spending enough on mental health.
We're not.
It's the laws on the books. No, we're not. So what did the $1 trillion go? And you're going to sit here and get partisan with it? Nomiki, that has nothing to do with it. The fact is we have a criminal problem. And in every single area with the tightest gun restriction, you have the highest homicide rate. That is an indisputable fact.
That's
every
not true.
single state, every state. It absolutely is, and I did write the book on it. You did not.
Wrote a book on it, but the facts are
no. Every FBI uniform crime report from 2003 to 2014
in the South, we have the highest rate of gun violence and the laxest laws. Why is it that our country?
I'm sorry. I apologize.
No, we do not.
I appreciate the passion, especially on
our suicide rate is lower than most European.
Oh, look at that. The magic of TV. Sorry, you got to laugh, right? I mean, like, that's the gallows humor.